We are live now. We are live, everybody. I want to thank everybody that is over here. And before we go far, the first thing is to introduce ourselves. My name is Eunice Menja, and I live here in Oklahoma, in the United States of America. I'm married. I have 2 children, and I love working with young people, which makes me very passionate about domestic violence. In the recent, we have seen the rise of domestic violence in this country, our girls being affected, our friends, our sisters, our neighbors, some of them have lost their lives. And because of that, we are taking it upon ourselves to talk about our stories of domestic violence, to give our perspective from the education we have received or cultural experiences. And that's why we are here. So if you are joining us now, these are women and men that are passionate about fighting for the voiceless. And so we are fighting domestic violence. We are not fighting men, just so that we are clear about that. And because we know sisters, their names that have died in the hands of an abuser, we're going to take one of silence to remember all those that have lost their lives in domestic violence. So join me in that one moment of silence. Thank you, everyone. I just noticed that we are not live on Facebook yet for some reason. I'm not sure why.
No, we are.
We are live.
Oh, we are?
Yes.
Oh, okay. I don't see myself live on Facebook. It's just live here, but it doesn't show streaming on live Facebook. Anybody that is able to see it?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. All right. You can share that link. I want to ask, maybe Monica can share it on cast as well, so that our cast women, our sisters, some of them, we are actually representing a lot of them there, so that they can also join us in this conversation. We come from a culture where women mainly usually faulted. They are faulted for bearing children that have disabilities. They are faulted for being childless. They are faulted when their children don't do well in school. And that has been a culture for a long time. We found that culture in our grandmothers and our great grandmothers. They have been fighting this fight of domestic violence. Some of them have lost and some of them have won. So we're here to continue on that fight that they fought. So we have women here in this forum that have survived domestic violence. And I want you to hear their voices. And so that you can know from a horse's mouth that domestic violence destroys lives, destroys marriages, destroys relationships. And so we're going to start with Stella, who has gone through domestic violence but has survived. She is a survivor, and she talks about it with a lot of courage to empower women. So Stella, take the mic and speak to this topic.
Hi, everyone. I'm Stella Kenyan-American, and I live in Houston, Texas. That's in the United States. And I am proud to say I am a survivor, and not just a survivor, I am a driver. I have thrived through it. By the grace of God, I managed to escape a very toxic and abusive relationship or marriage, but I didn't escape without any scars. I left with a lot of scars, and I'll actually show you some of them right now. These are, that's how I looked like by the end of my marriage. That's how it ended. I was burnt from face and chest by my ex-husband, and it was an ongoing battle of domestic violence, but this happened towards the end of the marriage. But it didn't start there. It started as any relationship would start. We started as boyfriend and girlfriend. We were having fun. He was nice to me. I was doing my best to be nice to him. We were good people. People looked at us from outside and they said, wow, what a couple. They belong together. They look perfect together. But what they didn't know was what was going on behind closed doors. And that's why I am passionate about this topic, because from outside, people looked at us like we were a perfect couple. But when we went inside the house, there were things that were going on. Was it always physical? No. In fact, it was physical the last year. We stayed together for 4 years. When the last year is when he turned physical. So the reason why I came here today is because there are so many people who are enduring this thing, who are enduring abuse from outside, from pictures on Facebook and everything. They look like a perfect couple. We have seen that. We have seen perfect couples yet murder each other. I was one of them. But I want to tell you that hiding this thing behind closed doors is not going to help you. It's not going to help your abuser. It's actually very toxic to you, to your children. And so if you're in this situation today, trust me, hiding it, you're not doing anybody a favor. And the fear, the worst thing that can happen is if you blow up at some point, if you blow up, they'll reach a level where you cannot hide it anymore. That's where I reached during this time. Because now when this happened, people started saying, what? But they used to look like a perfect couple, right? And so we have to wake up and realize by hiding this thing behind closed doors, we are not doing ourselves, our children, or our abusers any favor. And the more we expose this, by us speaking about it, people who have experienced it, and by you paying attention to what we are saying, because it's not just because it's going to happen to me and it can't happen to you. If it happened to me, it can happen to you or to anybody else. And so if you know someone who is struggling and who is hiding abuse, the best thing you can do for them is to tell them, don't feel the shame of sharing. Because what kept me there for that long, for 4 years, is fear of shame. What will people say? How would they judge me? What would I'll feel like I'm a loser or I'm a failure because I couldn't keep my marriage together, right? And so these fears kept me in it. But guess what? Who suffered at the end of it all? I am the one that suffered. My child suffered, and the abuser, I'm sure he suffered in his own ways, right? So I think my call here would be, don't hide it. Share with someone, a trusted person. If you can't find a confidant around you, or if you can't trust the people around you, go to an outsider, a counselor. There are people, in fact, the government, especially in America, we have people who are assigned to help victims. It's free. You can go there and you can share your problems, and they'll tell you which way, the best way for you to navigate this thing. So don't keep it quiet. Don't hold it within yourself, because it's really going to burst out at some point. And when that happens, sometimes it bursts out like me being burnt, or someone being killed, or someone kills the whole family. So we are not going to do anybody a favor by keeping it quiet. Let's talk about this. Let's open up. Talk to someone. If you can find a trusted person near you, there will be a family member who will listen. The more you close in, you cause more harm than good. So I'll keep it short for now. And if you have any question, you can ask, please.
What a courageous story. What a courageous testimony of a woman that has gone through domestic violence, and she can show the scars, because domestic violence hurts. And it is, people are living with it. We are hiding it. You're being hit, you're being burnt, but you're not speaking up. But yet, we know that's not love. So the next person that is going to give us a testimony of a survivor is none other than Caroline Bide. Day. Welcome.
Thank you so much, Eunice Major, for organizing this panel and assembling us to highlight domestic violence. I also want to recognize my fellow panelists. I honor you for even being on this panel. As you heard, my name is Caroline Bethy Day. I am a survivor of domestic violence that happened over 16 years ago. And it always takes courage to tell your story, because growing up in Kenya, as we talked about we have a lot of great things about our culture, but there was that unspoken rule that you do not disclose what's happening in your home. And having grown up with that, we grow up not even sharing some of the things that happen in our relationship. And we are for marriages, we are for great relationship. We're not here to condemn marriages, we are for marriages. What we're here to highlight tonight is we are against domestic violence. And before I share my story, I wanted to just highlight a couple statistics. Every 9 seconds in America, a woman is assaulted and beaten in America. Every 9 seconds. So far, we've been on live for a few minutes. In those minutes that we've been on live, right now, there's a woman being assaulted, and there are children also watching and seeing what's happening. And also men are also assaulted as well. Domestic violence has been on the increase during the pandemic, according to the Council of Foreign Relations. And one of the reasons that people keep asking, why is it that women are not living the relationship? And one of the reasons, as I share my story, when I was in the relationship over 16 years ago, it started out as a great relationship, but there were red flags along the way. And it started with emotional abuse, and there are different stages of domestic abuse. And it would start as belittling, and he would call me words. And there was the emotional abuse part of it that was the biggest part. And by the time it escalated to physical, I did not even recognize that I was in a domestic violence relationship, because at the time when you're in it, you've been so emotionally and psychologically beaten down that you don't even realize what your situation is. And God comfort even Barbara of Ferry's family. We saw her video. I'm sure a lot of you have seen her video. And her brother would tell her, you need to leave him. But there's that part of you when you're in the relationship, you're trying to rescue him. You're trying to fix him. And there's a part of you that is so hopeful that he can change, because a lot of times they will come back apologizing. I'm so sorry. I don't know what got into me. I will do my best. And they would win you back over. So there's that toxicity of the relationship where you have the honeymoon stage and then it gets better, then the cycle starts. So for me, my last straw was when I had a miscarriage, and there was also infidelity involved as well. And I'm all about being real, because for so long we try to edit and paint our relationships as perfect. But it is a time where we become real, because we've lost a lot of sisters. We've lost a lot of friends. It is a time we share our stories boldly, because if we do not share our stories, God help us, because we don't want to lose any more sisters. So I left the situation 16 years ago. And for me, what helped me was therapy, because through therapy, it helped me realize that I was in a toxic relationship. And there could be women who are in a relationship right now, because you're so used to that toxicity, it doesn't even seem as though it's domestic violence. Trust me, I was one of them. But through therapy, I realized that that relationship was toxic, and through therapy as well, I was able to escape and leave the relationship. Because many times when you tell your abuser you're leaving, that's the time it escalates to even extreme violence, where some of them will even kill you. They will stalk you. And one number that you can call if you're in a relationship that's toxic and you're being abused is 1-800-799-SAFE, SAFE, and www.hotline.org is the National Domestic Violence website. We're here for you. We are here to highlight about domestic violence. We love marriages, and that happened over 16 years ago. God healed me and God restored my heart. And I am married to an amazing man. God has restored my heart. And I always talk about domestic violence, even though that happened 16 years ago. It's still happening to our sisters and even brothers who may be watching tonight. We're here for you. We love you. And we do not want you to lose your life. Just because we survived, we are going to keep highlighting this, because it has become an epidemic in the diaspora. Thank you, Eunice.
Oh, thank you very much, Caroline. I don't even know how to even add or subtract any of your words, because it's just so powerful. They're hard, they're emotional, but they're real. This is the real life that our friends, our sisters are living in, but they don't realize, as you say, that they are in abusive relationship. Because abusive relationship does not have to be physical. It can be emotional. It can be medical,
Yeah.
where your spouse refuses you to go to the doctor. So I'm going to give this honor to our Dr. Peter Dingoi, who is going to definitely introduce us to this domestic violence from a perspective of an educator. Tell us a little bit about you and where domestic violence comes in. I think that Terry, you are muted. Okay.
Can you hear me now?
Yes,
Yeah.
we can hear you. Yes.
Thank
We
you.
can hear you. Yes.
Eunice, I don't know why you made me come after, by the time I'm feeling like crying when I listen to the stories of Stella and Caroline, because these are deep stories. But before I say anything else, I want to congratulate you, Stella and Caroline, that you are able to get out and find yourself again and know you are important and you are a person. And you don't have to get out. Because I do know, and I do hope many people who are watching here can hear your stories and say, you don't have to. You don't need to. He or she, because I'll still talk to the other side, because it also happens to men. Nobody has that power to suppress you, because what happens in domestic violence is people reduce you to almost that you start even almost hating yourself. Stella, Caroline, my first question would have been, why did you stay? But I cannot ask that. Caroline, you put it very well. You try. We love marriages. We want to be in that relationship. And the culture that we have been having is that if you leave, it's most likely your fault. Because the abuser will go talking, she's a bad woman, I saw her with this man, I saw her doing this and all that, or the other way around too. But to be able to get out and be able to be here, is an honor for me. And Eunice, let me get back to you to thank you so much for inviting me. This is an area I've not been. Anytime I want to know what is going on in CASP, my lovely wife tells me, no, that's not for you guys. You have your own Kemen and you have your own other forums. But today I told her, honey, I'm gonna be there in CASP. How? Oh, the boss invited me, so I'm honored. And I'm sure she's listening somewhere. But before I proceed there, Eunice, if you can allow me to just let me share this. Okay,
Make
there's
your
something
host.
I like to share. And Eunice, if you can allow me to share this, can you?
Yes, you are a host. Yes, you can share.
Okay. I don't know why I'm having a problem. Let me share the screen. Can you see my screen now?
Yes.
Yes, you can.
Right. Eunice, when you invited me, I remembered my late mother, Grace. And whatever I'm going to say, whatever going to happen tonight, is going to be because of what she taught me to respect women. That being a man means respecting women and respecting your mother, respecting everybody. And I thank you, Mom. I know you're in heaven. Thank you for teaching me how to respect a woman. And I want to say, Priscilla, my wife, is a beneficiary of what she taught me. That's my wife. As you can see, she was so beautiful when we met, when we got married, and many years later, she's even more beautiful. And for you, honey, I am here tonight, and I thank you so much. I'm here to listen to these stories. And I'm here to share my part too, because I believe that there is an issue in our community and particularly in the diaspora, because there are many issues coming in, there are many issues affecting all of us, and I don't know whether we have answers yet, but we'll try to explore them. But first of all, talking together and being nice to each other and listening to stories of each other and seeing how the community can support one another is important. As Eunice said, I am a professor at Florida Gulf Coast University, and I teach in the College of Education. I'm a teacher. I teach in a program called Child and Youth Studies. I'm a certified family life educator. So I think I have the qualifications and the background to say this. But the most important background is what my mother taught me and what my wife is doing for me to help me. Listening to you, Caroline and Stella, reminds me of many women I've talked to because I'm the president of the African Network, and I hear these stories again and again and again. And some of the issues we talk about that have arisen in the gender is the changes in the gender roles. I think any form of inequality triggers off violence or accelerates violence, one way or another. I repeat, the people who are in the age of my mother, most of them because the income was coming from the father and from those parents, they had to stay no matter how much they were abused because there was nowhere else to go, and the society kind of almost accepted. He is feeding you, he is doing everything for you, so why would you go? And he had nowhere else to go. That inequality. Now it seems like, particularly in the diaspora, the inequality is changing slowly. And I'll talk about that briefly. Because women now are empowered, women are having these organizations, women are doing a lot more. They have created a support system, and the many jobs like teaching, like health, have allowed progression of women, and they're moving on and they're doing a lot more. And somehow, you'll find that when the gender inequality, whichever way comes in, it creates an environment where we start not respecting one another because I have more money than you, or I'm driving a better car, or mine is mine. But what I want to say is this. For that respect, Caroline and Stella, what you said of your family, you are better off when you're trying to be equal. And I'm trying to say this, for example, my wife, I know she's listening. When she was going back to be a nurse practitioner from RN, that's when we talked and she said, honey, I would like you also to go and do your doctorate. I know you've been wanting to do that. We went back to school together. We enjoyed it. It was not easy for the home and everything else, but somehow we went on. Everything we do, we are doing together. We are a team together. We support one another. And that's what I'm telling men. I'm not trying to brag here. I'm just saying the truth. Lastly, before I finish this, because we're going to talk a little bit more, Eunice, love is a beautiful feeling. Love does not come easily. You must look for it. You must look forward to being with your wife, to being with your husband. Both of us must nourish it. And I'm going to talk about, I hope ladies will allow me, because I don't see many men, that there are areas that also maybe there are things, I'm not saying you nurture the parents, there's nothing to nurture the parents, but nurturing the love that we have to spend also a little bit more time together. No matter how much you hard you work, Eunice, no matter how much you do, that home, Robert is still the main person in your life. Children are most important, no matter what else we do. And if you're not nurturing that, if you're allowing our progression to be leaving behind anybody else or not taking care of the family, then we're not. So we'll move on from there. I want to stop it there with the word love. Love can conquer all. And I hope that will be the message tonight. Thank you. Eunice, you are muted.
So
Unmute.
I want to thank Dr. for all that you have said and even supporting this cause, because as we said in the beginning, this fight is not fight against men. This fight is against abuse. It's against men that do not value women in their lives, or they see them as property. You know, when you, in Kenya, in our African culture, there are some cultures, most of the cultures that are paying dowry, they have paid dowry, and once you go into their homes, they think you're a property. We're here to say, no, we are not property. We are created equal by God, and we can share in this marriage as equal partners, respecting and loving one another. So the next thing that I'm going to ask, because this is going to follow up on what Dr. has said, we're here as immigrants, especially in this country, whether in America or even in Canada. We're here to pursue greener pastures. But we find that sometimes, because of our circumstances, we have some people that are using power of, citizenship, of power of green card, of power of being in good status in this country to abuse their partners. It could be women, it could be men, but in this case, we're talking about men. I want to call upon my friend Monica Degwa, because I think you do have, you probably have seen a trend of how women are being victimized because of immigration. Is there a way out? And how do we empower women who are depending on their spouses to file for them, whether it is green card, whether it is citizenship? You're in that relationship. How do we speak to that woman that is caged in a marriage because they are depending on their spouses for themselves to be legal in this country or even in Canada? Unmute yourself.
Thanks, Eunice, and thank you so much for inviting me. This is a really, really important topic. I think the saddest thing right now in the reality of what we are facing right now is mental health is really, really a serious problem in our community. And I think it's time for us to start paying really, really close attention, because I think just people feeling unaccepted in society, feeling judged. And I think the biggest thing in our community is we have become very judgmental, and unfortunately, people are not being able to come out and speak about their pain because they are so worried about being mocked, their stories being shared everywhere for everybody to see, you know, for everybody to hear. So that alone is why it's so important for us to have this conversation. So unfortunately, immigration is a big deal with in this domestic violence conversation, especially for the women who have just come to America. You know how it is when we first come to America, we are scared. We think even, I remember when I came, I thought even stepping on the grass was so beautiful. So I thought I would get arrested for just stepping on the grass, you know? And everywhere you go, you feel intimidated. Even speaking up was difficult. You know, we came here speaking in low tones, and you go and people don't even understand what you're saying. So, you know, the fear of facing immigration is a real fear for some of these women, especially the ones who have just come and they don't have any papers. So you will find that these women are depending financially on the man, you know? Then the man might even choose to delay your papers. He might threaten to report you to immigration. And a lot of times, these women who have just come to the country, the only thing they think is going to happen when they're reported to immigration is deportation. And they believe the abuser that they're actually going to report them to immigration. But I'm not a lawyer, and I wish we, had a lawyer expert to speak on this, but I'm going to speak on what I know and encourage anybody who is feeling scared right now to please go and Google what I'm going to talk about. All I want you to take out of my portion of this is that there's a way out. There's a way out. Don't feel like somebody can sit on you and dictate to you and make you live a life of fear. No. America is a land of rights. And believe me, there are rights that protect you. So the first thing I probably want to talk is about the Battered Immigrant Woman Protection Act. So that's VAWA. And part of VAWA is the U visas, the U visa. So the U visa is specifically for victims of sexual assault and trafficking and violent crimes. And the way that I understand that VAWA works, the U visas work, is that they protect you from the person who is causing you harm if you are willing to speak up. And clearly it says that it protects you if you are willing to assist in the investigation or prosecution of a criminal offense. If somebody is beating you up and you're willing to speak about it, America is willing to protect you. So take advantage of it. Don't feel like if you speak up, this person still has authority over you because they have papers. No. America is going to protect you as long as you are willing to help them prosecute that person who is causing you pain. So if you apply, you are eligible to receive a work permit. So if you're dependent on this person financially, don't fear. Don't fear. You are going to be able to get a visa, a work permit if you are willing to help to prosecute this person. Now, this is the hard part. And I know this is going to be the difficult part for most of these women. Why? Because you love this person. I think the most important thing I have found to be able to walk away from some of these difficult situations is to just associate it with something negative. You have to start associating this person with something negative, because anybody who lays their hands on you is not somebody who is good for you. Really, it doesn't matter how they come and apologize. The fact that they lifted their hand and slapped you, that alone, it means they really don't care about you. You have to start associating these things with something negative. Writing these things down helps you to associate it with something negative. If you're willing to step up and say something so that this person can face their consequences for what they are doing to you, because you don't deserve it. You really don't deserve it. Just believe that you don't deserve this thing. if you can speak up, there is laws that can protect you. You can always talk to a lawyer and you can always read more about it. Now, you are eligible to receive a work permit. Your family members can be included in your application and they will be eligible to receive work permits if there's nothing else going wrong that would prevent them from getting the work permits. Now, there are only up to 10,000 U visas available each year, okay? But there are other options still. So you may qualify for a U visa if you have suffered substantial physical or mental abuse as a result of being a victim of certain criminal activity. Domestic violence is a criminal activity, okay? If you've experienced that, you qualify for this visa. That criminal activity must have happened here in the US. And you must have some information that shows that this actually happened. Take pictures, write in a journal, just keep writing and keep keeping some evidence. You know, it takes time to get the courage, but when you do have that courage, you will have the evidence at hand. So keep that evidence. If you can provide that evidence of that person beating you up, the law is going to protect you, okay? But for this particular visa, you must be helpful. You must be willing to help federal, state, and local investigators. So if that is what you are facing difficult in, then this might be difficult for you, you see? So you have to report it, you have to show that you have reported, you have to show that you are willing to help these people to prosecute this person. Now, the U visa lasts for up to 4 years, but it can be extended. It can be extended if you are required to stay and maybe, what do you call it? Be a witness and, you know, give testimony that shows that this person, if they need you, law enforcement, it can be extended, you see? So, but after 3 years of continuous stay in the US, the person with the U visa can apply for permanent residency, okay? So that is where, and applying for permanent residency, there is no limit per year of how many people can apply. The next thing to talk about is the battered spouse waiver. The battered spouse waiver. And this is, let me read for you. It allows victims of domestic violence to file an application to remove a conditional status on their, work permit. So if you got your work permit through this relationship and you're supposed to stay, I think 2 years or whatever, those conditions can be removed. And that is what the battered spouse waiver does. It can remove those things so that you are able to now continue to apply and to do more on your own without being attached to this person. The waiver is removed. The other one that's available is VAWA self-petitioning. So once you become a victim of domestic violence, child abuse, or elder abuse, you can qualify for self-petition. So just because this person brought you here doesn't mean they have to file for you your green card. If you qualify through this, you can file that green card for yourself without being attached to this person in any way. So don't feel like you can't do that. This person cannot hold you hostage because they are applying papers for you. They can't do that. So, and if you go through this process, your spouse and your children can also apply. I think the only difference here with this, with the waiver process, I think is that your children still have, and your spouse still have to go through the process like everyone else who is applying for permanent residency. So you won't be moved any faster, I don't think. But like I said, this is information that you can check with a lawyer. Then there's also VAWA, cancellation of removal. If you are facing likelihood of deportation, this VAWA cancellation of removal can stop you from being deported. How? It can let me see, you have to have been battered or subjected to extreme cruelty in the US, okay, by a US citizen or a permanent resident. You have to have been in the US for at least 3 years and have been of good character, okay? So the reason why you are being removed, then it shows that if you leave, there will be some type of hardship for you or your children. So these vows are based on that violence that you're going through can protect you from being deported. Ladies, imagine you have rights. You have rights. Don't let a man hold papers against you. Immigration is not here for people to suffer like this. There are laws protecting you. So please, go and read about these things. Read about the U visas. Read about VAWA cancellation of removal if you're facing deportation. You know, read about the battered woman act. You know, that protects those. All these are protecting you if you are going through domestic violence. Don't be scared. Really, don't be scared. That's all that I had to say about that topic.
Thank you very much, Monica. That was a very, very powerful message that you have given to women. Of course, it's tied to a lot of resources that you have given for women that are being battered because they have to depend on their abuser, or even men. They're having to depend on their abuser for them to be filed for papers. So you do have a way out. We'll put our resources later to this video. So I wanted to actually divert your attention to a woman. These pictures are all over Facebook, that was being battered by her husband. We don't know the reasons, but we know this woman is a Kenyan. This is Jackie. Jackie has a name. Jackie was a mother. Jackie was being abused. Blood is coming out of her mouth and her fingers, and she was crying out for help. As of now, we really don't know who killed her. We don't know why she died, but there is a message that she wrote to her brother and said, I called the cops on him, and the cops said, we separate and we sleep in different bedrooms. So I'm about to call a lawyer to find out how I can get him out of the house before his anger kills me. I am sharing these pictures from the Facebook of her brother who hurts. This is a girl, this is a sister, this is a mother. She was going through domestic violence. She was hurting. She was being abused. Her blood was coming out. There is no human being on this earth that has a right to hurt another human being. It does not matter how much dowry they have paid, and I will say it again. As much as I'm a Christian, I am against women being beaten up. I'm against women staying in marriages that they have to worry about if they will live again. And it is wrong. So as we speak tonight, we are also going to share a picture of a pastor. This woman was killed by her husband. An African pastor killed his wife. And we listened to the video 12 hours before he shot this woman. As she cried as her brother tried to get out of that house. But the woman was stopping the brother from calling the police because what if his citizenship papers don't go through because of being implicated by police? Women, we have to choose between life and honoring someone. We're gonna have to choose between life and honoring someone. We can honor them because we brought them to this country or they brought us to this country. We can move on. I will never tell a woman to stay in a marriage that they're being abused by a man because that man does not deserve them. I grew up as a child. When I was growing up as a child, I had a lot of pain. You cannot see that pain now because I'm empowered. I have a lot of strength, but through God, I'm healed. My mother was being battered almost every Friday. The word Friday traumatizes me. So there is trauma that goes with domestic violence in the home. And the reason I fight today is because of those children that are in that relationship. The children that tell you that the children that you think about and say, I can't leave this relationship because of my children. They hurt. I'm a victim as a child of domestic violence because my mother did not leave the relationship. And I don't want to see any other child go through that pain. That's why we're here. So we're going to continue our speaking up, and I will call my friend Margaret. Margaret, unmute yourself. I know you have a story of a woman that was killed in Massachusetts without giving details, because I know how much it hurt you that that woman was killed by her husband. Can you speak to that? Because this affects the community, it does not only affect the person who is abusing or the person in the home, it affects the community. So speak about that a little bit.
Hi, everybody. My name is Margaret. I am in Massachusetts. I am a mother of 3 teenage boys. I am married for about 20 years. So first of all, before I go to the victim, I think for all of us, we need to think of our role as a society, right? So we as women, we have to create that environment that if you know or there's a friend who's getting abused and it's happening every day, like Kellen had said, she'll feel comfortable to come talk to you. And we have created barriers because when I come and share my deep secret with somebody, they want to share with the whole world. They want to put it on Facebook. So women feel, they can't speak up, they can't vent, they can't talk. And that's why we are losing so many women. Just to touch a little bit on that lady who died here in Boston. She was killed. She has actually had left Massachusetts and she had come back here for some reason and she ended up getting killed. And I think all of us in the panel, we know someone who basically is murdered through domestic violence. And we have to put a stop to it. We have to make platforms. We have to create the friendship environment that, if my friend come talk to me, I'll be a good listener. I won't be judgmental. I will save that secret. And then we have to help them get out. I know I follow Lillian a lot. She has done a great job. We have to do more. And like I told you, I wrote to you yesterday, I said, we have to have representatives in different counties or states because a woman have to have a safe place, a safe platform, somebody she can talk to. And we can go through different panels, churches, different people to stand in the gap of these ladies. And as us, as society, both men and women getting battered, we have to be able to help them out. Don't rat on me. Don't put it on WhatsApp. Be a good listener because this thing gotta stop. We have to put a stop today, and this gonna continue, Eunice, because every year we're losing women, young women. What happened to the kids? The family is suffering as well. The parents, the brother, the siblings. We gotta put this to stop. And by creating those environment platforms, us being there for the women. I wrote something here that says, friends is the pulse of our lives. Friendship needs to be cherished and built up. A friend, you want to be able to go to someone and open up and talk. For me, I know I have somebody, on you ladies or gentlemen on the panel, you have somebody you can call in the middle of the night. They'll answer that phone. Whether your car broke down, whether you have a sickness in the family, they'll pick up that phone and wake up. And you do the same. It goes vice versa. You'll be able to get up and do that. So for me, I'm challenging everybody. I know there are people on Facebook listening, Massachusetts, whatever you are, it's a challenge. We gotta do something today, not tomorrow, today. We're gonna save our women Because as a mother, I have 3 boys in this house. What am I teaching them? What are we teaching our daughters? These are the people we're going to pass on the baton when we are gone. What are we doing for tomorrow's children, tomorrow's leaders? So that's all I have.
Thank you very much, Margaret. Thank you, thank you, thank you. I really want Wagoi has a thumbs up to maybe add on something. Wagoi, unmute yourself and add on to that.
Hi, everyone. I thank you, Eunice, for giving me an opportunity to say something. And thank you, everybody, for also giving me an opportunity. My name is Wangui Gadua. I am talking from Iowa City, Iowa. And when I talk about domestic violence, and this is timely, Eunice, for organizing this, because next month it's Domestic Awareness Month, Domestic Violence Awareness Month. I speak as a teacher. I've taught high school in Kenya and the US. I also talk as a school counselor, both here and in the US. I talk as a counselor educator in Kenyan universities and the US. And currently, what I'm doing is very relevant to what we are talking about today. I am coordinating an organization in Iowa City, Eastern Iowa, for African immigrants and refugees who are victims or survivors of domestic violence, stalking violence, sexual assault violence, and human trafficking. Like a lot of us here, when Stella and Caroline were sharing their stories, and the picture that is being shared right now of Jack, and also the story, Margaret, you've told from Massachusetts. It's sad and it resonates with a lot of our personal experiences, because we really can't say any of us here is not, even if you are not, you've not personally experienced domestic, any of those violences, that you're not affected or you don't know anybody who is affected. For me, more so right now, it resonates with a lot of the clients that I work with. It's meaningful work that we do in Iowa, following up on the African immigrant population and refugees and our Kenyan community here in Iowa. And you've spoken to a lot of the experiences that the clients go through and the challenges that we have. Margaret, you addressed and you appealed to people to encourage speaking up, and people not sometimes being able to speak up because they're going to be judged, and also not feeling safe, and confidentiality and privacy not being maintained. And sadly, as I work in the field, some of the people who make it unsafe for people who are experiencing this violence, a lot of us who break the confidentiality are the friends, especially the women friends, and also judging. And in that way, they maintain the violence. So a lot of the things we've talked about are very, very true. But even that being said, it doesn't mean that we continue, because, and a lot of you, I saw Lillian is an advocate, and Margaret and Monica and Eunice and Peter, as we continue doing this work, and I know even you, Caroline and Stella, are survivors, you still continue working with those who are experiencing or those who have survived to prevent more violence. And also for them, these survivors, the majority of them, documentation shows they are women and girls, but we also do have males. So as we work with those who are still in victimhood and those who are surviving, we also work on prevention. And I am always very excited by my peer Peter as a male standing up to be counted and the work that he is doing as a Kenyan man to be in this field. He calls himself a feminist, and I agree, he does that. To join the team, or because even as I coordinate services and empowering the survivors and those who are still in victimhood, because you have all captured that somebody ends up in this situation because they are disempowered in some way by their abuser. So our mission for the organization I coordinate is called NISA, African Family Services. And our mission is to empower the person, to help them. Fortunately, as a lot of us have mentioned here, Margaret, Monica, you really hammered in on that. Eunice, you do give these services. We are very lucky in the US that unless somebody fears or they do not know, or because of immigration status, and even that does not stop. Margaret, you've gone on at length on even if you don't have status, you don't, somebody doesn't have to continue staying in violence. The services are there. And right now, I get rewarded by working with the survivors, and we also outreach to them. We don't wait, like Margaret, you're saying, you had said, and Monica, we don't wait for the person to come forward. And earlier on, Eunice, Caroline, and Stella, you had also said, we also reach out to those people because we are in the community and part of the Kenyan community. We are not very many. We are about 200 adults in Iowa City. And even in the state, because we are situated in the community, we are usually able, and we are connected to the families, and we are able to know what's going on with our families.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Wangari. We really appreciate your support. I'm going to come back to you because I hear that you have a lot of resources for us women that are going through domestic violence or they have survived. I want to bring one more survivor because, as we said, the horse's mouth speaks the strongest voice, because we might speak about domestic violence or into domestic violence, but unless you have won these shoes, you don't know how much they hurt. I want to bring Lillian to speak a little bit about her story, and also maybe point us to some of the ways we can advise our women. What is the exit plan when this marriage doesn't work, when all you're getting is being abused and being beaten up? What do we do? Speak about your story, and also maybe speak to that woman who is wondering, how do I leave this relationship? It's not working for me, or I'm going to be dead. Come in, Lillian.
Thank you, Eunice, and thank you, everybody. This is everybody in the panel and those who are watching. I really appreciate and I'm humbled to be in this panel today. My name is Lillian Eberhard Stevens. And I've been a survivor for 19 years. 9/11 actually found me in the domestic women's shelter. So every time I celebrate 9/11, I remember where I was. I was in the women's shelter, and that's where my life began, because I was in a domestic abuse situation for years, and I come from a point. The reason I want women who are watching, because we are immigrants, and I was an immigrant when I came to this country, and the fact that I didn't know much about abuse and red flags. I was isolated. You know, immigrants, we are isolated. And the reason why I speak a lot about domestic violence is because of how naive I was when I first came to this country. How naive I was to not know, to see the red flags. How naive I was to not know where to get. Even when the police were called to my, you saw in that video, of the lady, the one that's been going, no, he didn't hit me. And me being the loud one in the family, I mean, in the household, even when I went out and I talked about it, people still thought that I was the one who was the aggressor. So because, and those kind of stuff makes me talk about domestic violence. I formed, for those who, a little bit about me, after the domestic violence, I started Domestic Violence Africa, which is a page here in the on Facebook. I started at DIPA, which is almost 10 years old. And then even when I got remarried at our church, I started something to do with domestic violence called Dress for Success Ministry. And also now we own a nonprofit called KW Stephen Ministries, which we help domestic violence. What I'm trying to bring out here today is that there is help. And Margaret did talk about how, you know, like having confidentiality and having friends, but that's not always so. You know, sometimes you can't have friends. The women that I've been trying to help, they don't have nobody. So I want people to understand that if you don't have anybody, they still help. If you're living, because a lot of the women, because of online, nowadays you can get a wife, even like Americans are actually marrying Kenyans who they meet online. And there's a lot of abuse of young people right now. So you find that they're in the countryside, in a very isolated area, and I'm helping some women like that. And nobody, even other Kenyans, don't know that they're here, you know? So these women are being abused, being put in sex trafficking. Some of them I'm talking to. So for me, there is help even if you don't know a Kenyan. Sometimes the people around you are the toxic people that you need to get away from. And because sometimes your sister, your mother will not help you because they'll tell you need to stay, or they don't know any better. So I come in where I'm trying to explain to most women that there is the national, Carol talked about the national hotline for domestic violence. That number you can call from anywhere in the United States, okay? And you will get help. They will direct you. I know a lot of women, I myself, in my second marriage, that was the first one, I called that number and I got help. So, you know, after you go through abuse the second time around, you know, because sometimes all of us believe when we get into marriage, we expect it to be perfect. But I want the women to understand that then there is help out there. Hotlines in your area, there is a domestic shelter. And domestic shelter is not just a shelter. And I do this a lot on my videos, trying to explain to the women that when you see domestic shelter, it's not those shelters you see in the movies, you know, it's a private, confidential. And you can call those numbers, not to go to the shelter. You can call those numbers just so that you can you can tell them that you're not ready to leave. Because a lot of women, when they hear shelter, they freak out. They're like, okay, I don't want to go to the shelter. People have already told you shelter, people will rape you. There's so many misconceptions about domestic shelter. So I try to explain to the women that when you call that number, you can call that number even when you're not ready to go to the shelter. You can call that number today if you're already going through domestic abuse. You tell them, I'm not ready to leave, because they'll never force you to come into the shelter. But I want to have a plan to get in, an exit plan. I want to develop an exit plan. I want to know what to do in case things go bad. And I tell a lot of women, and I've helped a lot of women who, when they call me the first time, they're like, oh no, nothing is gonna happen. I know my husband is not gonna hurt me. I know he's not gonna, I know, like in Swahili, he's not gonna do anything. Man has kicked them out. So in a situation like that, I tell the women, you call the hotline, so they will actually help you. And I got my green card through VAWA, which is Violence Against Women's Act. And I'll tell you the simple, Monica did mention it, but I'll tell you the simple way so that you understand it in a way that, I'll just simplify it. Long time ago, there used to be, we are not the first immigrants here. There are Russians, there are China, there are India. The men used to come here with their wives. Once they come here with their wives, they're working, so their wife is not working. So you're coming in as a housewife to this country. And when they used to come to this country, the husband would expect them to be exactly like they were in Africa, not talking, not doing everything. And then the wife would be stuck here, being threatened that if you do anything, because your visa is attached to my visa, you're gonna be deported. So during Clinton's time, you to self-petition without your husband, and I'll read it the way it is so that at least you know exactly what it says. So I don't say the wrong word. And I want, if you're going through domestic violence, to really know about this VAWA, because a lot of people misunderstand what it is. Give me 1 second. So VAWA, it allows you to self-petition for green card without him. He is not going to get involved. A lot of women who call me, they're already scared that, how about if he finds out that I'm filing for VAWA? He doesn't have to know you're filing for VAWA, okay? So the thing is, you have to know that even though your husband is, you're married to your husband, you file for green card, he starts abusing, and now he's abusing you, and you have to wait for another 2 years, 2 years to get your visa. There is a way out. So do not feel you do not get stuck, feel like you're stuck, or prove that your marriage was legitimate. So you have to prove that your marriage was legitimate. You have to prove that your marriage was in good faith. That means you're not, you did not try to, it's not a fake marriage. And then you also have to prove abuse. So my thing to you, to whoever is listening, because me, what happened to me is, I was not ready. I did not know about VAWA, and I did not know what they needed. So if you're going through domestic abuse, you can start an exit plan whereby you just say what if, because you have to, in Swahili, jipange, because you never know when things can go bad. I personally, and I'll tell you this, I didn't think that things would get bad or worse, because I didn't expect things to get worse. I'm the one who ended up being in trouble instead of him. That means during the scuffle, when you're fighting with your husband, you might be the one who gets hurt. And then you yourself, who's been trying to hide the fact that you've been abused, hide the fact that this is going on, you end up in jail. I know women who called me who ended up in mental institutions, and the husband was busy saying, yes, she's mentally ill, you know? So here's a woman, because she's being abused, she's going through mental issues because of that, and now she's going to be in a mental hospital, and she's going to lose her kids. So that is why I always tell the women, it is best to call the shelter, which is on the hotline. And I also go through a lot of things about telling you that do not fear the questions they're going to ask you. Do not fear going into the shelter. You're protected. We are immigrants. We are from Kenya, but we want to handle things the way we handled in Kenya. This country has already through this abuse for years. We are not the first ones. So they've already narrowed down what they know already. They know already what is going on. Some of you feel that because he's not physically abusing you, that is not abuse. Just because he's isolating you, that is not abuse. It starts like that. But they say, he's not beating me, but she's going through mental issues where she's about to be crazy. She's actually, some of them have actually gone crazy over this. So my thing is, even if you're not ready to leave, call the hotline, the national hotline. If you just can't remember, call the national hotline. They will direct you to somewhere around your area, and you can tell them you want to take advantage of the outreach plan. You do not need to go and say, I'm not ready to come in. They'll remember is, what will they need to file for your VAWA? An exit plan will help you with that. They will need things like photographs. They will need text messages. They will need all the proof that you are being abused. So, you know, some people, they record those things. Some people, they keep all the text messages. Keep those things, even if you're not ready to leave, because sometimes you're not ready to leave, but you might be forced to leave. That's where the problem is. It's like, okay, I'm not ready to leave now. But remember, even if you're not ready, sometimes you're forced to leave no matter what. I know a lady who had called me and said, I'm not ready to leave. One day she goes to her house, her husband has locked the house, the police is meeting her at the door. She's calling me back crying, saying, hey, my kids have been taken. And I'm like, did you call that number I gave you 5 months ago? She says, no. I said, call them now, you know? And she called them, and she ended up getting her kids back. And they found out that she was the one being abused. I was the one being abused, but I ended up being the one taken in. But they found out later that by proof, by everything that the neighbors and everybody, the noises they used to hear, they proved that I was being abused. So my thing is, find out about VAWA, and then also just be patient with whoever you're helping, you know, because it's not easy. It's hard to leave. I myself, I'm telling you, I went to Kenyatta University in Kenya, and you'd expect me to know that this man is abusive, to know to leave. But when you're being abused, like I think Dr. Peter talked about that, you get into love, knowing and trusting and knowing that this person will love you and not hurt you. You trust them and believe everything they tell you. So you stay in the abuse, because like you can tell in that video, I don't know if Eunice has put it up, the video where the wife, the wife is actually begging you do that because you truly love your husband. You've already, everything you think about, you know, your church, your you know, there's a lot of issues that will make a woman stay. So that's another topic. You know, why do we stay? We stay because you love somebody, the church, your family, but remember, if it's not you don't have a friend in the area, you can tell your doctor, you can tell your pastor, you can talk about it. You can go on Facebook, look for, you know, just do something about it. So the best thing is call the national hotline or find a domestic abuse center around your area. A lot of women are going through counseling. They will give you counseling. They will teach you. I advise women, like I think Karen Bither talked about counseling. Counseling is important. I went for counseling for 1 year. I went for counseling after I went to the shelter, and later on. Counseling will teach you one thing, even if you're not ready to leave, if you're in an abusive situation. Okay. Counseling will teach you either to leave or to stay in that marriage in a healthy way, to say no. That's all I got, Eunice.
Thank you very much. That is also a very powerful, powerful story. Thank you, Lillian. You're really an advocate. I can tell that your blood is really just advocacy because of what you went through. And all of us here, because of the experiences that we had before or even now. I do a lot of work with children, but every time I rescue a child, a lot of time, I want to say 80% of the time, is that those children have in some way been abused because of domestic violence. We're talking about emotional abuse, or maybe just things that happen in the home. Really, they're all domestic. So whatever is going on in your home, you have to speak up. I want to bring something that you talked a little bit about, exiting. Sometimes because we're Christians, we're really Christians. Faith has been ingrained in us. We know about trusting in God, about changing the situations. We know about God even changing this man that we love so much. Maybe somehow he will start loving me and stop beating me up. But there's an epidemic. People are dying. Women are dying. We can't talk about faith when someone's life is in danger. And I want to share this picture again, because you're not talking about faith because you don't know God. When I talk about faith, I have to separate the two. This man called himself a man of God. He was being followed until his imprisonment. He was being followed by thousands of people. He was preaching about the love of God, but he couldn't love his wife. So the reason why I keep bringing up this pastor is because we have pastors in our lives that are telling us, you need to stay because marriage is not supposed to be broken. But I'm here, pro-family. I am not pro-domestic violence. I'm not pro-abuse and killing, because if you don't leave, you will die. If he says he's going to kill you, he will kill you. He said it 12 hours before. He said it, if I don't kill your sister, I'm a fake pastor. Who says that? Those are the pastors that we're talking about in our community. And I want to bring Sister Caroline back here to talk about this issue of our pastors. They cannot fix the man, but they want to fix the woman. Fix the woman in fear of, if you leave this marriage, you're going to dishonor God. If you leave this marriage, then this. Let's call our pastors to a talk. We don't want to be killed, because even the pastors are killing us. So don't tell us to stay in a marriage if I feel like I'm going to die in that marriage. So Caroline, come tell us, what do we need to do as people of church, people of God?
Ooh, that one just almost makes my blood boil, because I've counseled a lot of women who are also in the church, and some of them are leaders in the church, and especially in the diaspora. The biggest thing we have to acknowledge is the role the church has played in domestic violence. I think that is where change needs to start. Because for me, the church that paid for my counseling, and I love our culture, I love our people, but the church that helped me, I used to live in Massachusetts, Margaret, when this happened. And the church that helped me was an Assembly of God church where we used to attend. and they had an in-house licensed therapy. And they had allocated funds to help congregants who may be going through different needs. And for me, my need was domestic violence and I needed therapy. Now, looking back in our community, a lot of our churches, because I've spoken in domestic violence meetings before, and I've asked this question to the pastors, do you have funds allocated to help your fellow congregants who may be going through domestic violence? And most of them do not. Most of them do not have resources allocated to help their congregants who may be facing domestic violence. And the other thing is we respect and honor our spiritual leaders, but they also have to recognize where they do not have the skill of helping people that are facing domestic violence. So for a pastor to tell, because one of the things I always hear is some of the women will say, I went and told my pastors, and the pastor and his the leader said, you know, let's pray and fast about it, then go fix your home. But they haven't given them life skills of getting the help they need. So the pastors have to recognize, you know what? I do not have the skills to help my fellow congregant, but we could partner with organizations that are skilled in helping people who are facing domestic violence. And not just our pastors, but also I want to talk, because this is happening in different communities in the United States. Also, the law enforcement also needs to be trained in recognizing domestic violence victim, because a lot of times when you call the cops, some of them have no idea. And I don't know who shared and said, I think it was you, Lillian, who said, and correct me if I'm wrong, sometimes the cops will show up and tell you, oh, sleep in different bedrooms. And they're not recognizing that that's the time where they need to get you out. But our pastors need to recognize we have failed our communities. We have failed our communities and we need to do better. Please partner with organizations that help domestic violence community victims, such as the Domestic Violence National Hotline. And I've also put up some websites there that people can go and get help in. But please, our leaders have failed us here, because we have this resources to put up great conferences. But how about we start allocating some funds to help our people? And when your fellow congregant comes to you and tells you, this is what I'm facing in my home, please stop preaching about it on the pulpit, because this is what has happened. And a lot of times people are just silent in shame because they've watched their pastors preach about their domestic issues on the pulpit. So we need to do better. As a community, as spiritual leaders, let us recognize the role we've played and let us do better. Partner with organizations that are skilled in helping our fellow Africans here in the diaspora. Thank you.
Very much. You bring up a very good point. Our churches are lacking in resources, and sometimes because most of the times our churches are being led by African men. And I have nothing against African men. I do have an African man in my life. We have been sensitized to be the dominant, the male, and the women are supposed to be the submissive ones. I know the Bible talks about submissive woman. I don't want to be submissive to a man that doesn't love me. The Bible says, I submit and he loves me, and there's nowhere love is defined by domestic violence or being violent to me. So I want to, before I call Stella, because Stella has a very good, I want to say maybe a book she's written about being an abused queen. I don't know what that means, but the title itself looks like got to do with her story. Let me call Dr. Peter
Yeah.
Nyang'oi
Mhm.
to speak about a little bit about our African culture and where is it going to meet with our Christianity. You know, the education we are receiving now as a women, because we're no longer left at home to cook for our husband. We are working, we are pursuing degrees. So where are we going to find a balance to where that when my husband comes home, he's not expecting me to be the maid. We don't have a maid. We don't. I am going to school, I'm working, I'm doing all these other things. So where are we gonna find the balance, Dr.
Thank you so much. But let me just pick up something about the church before I get to the culture, because church and culture go together. I want to tell our pastors who are listening here and everybody in the church, because I'm a Christian, I'm a deep Christian, I believe in the church, I believe in everything. But let's start with the vows. And I hope they can revise this. The woman will always say, I promise to obey. And the man, I promise to love, or something like that. Not obey, meaning the woman is subservient. The woman is beautiful. I will obey him because the neck is not greater than the head and all that. And I know some men may disagree with me, but you are much better off when you are obeying one another, when you are loving one another. It goes both ways. If the woman is being told, I promise to obey the man should also be told, I promise to obey the woman. If the man is being told, love your wife, the woman should be told, love your husband too. I'm trying to say, this is in the church, because sometimes the church, you examine these things and you wonder, really? Anyway, the culture we grew up with, we are living in a very difficult time because we saw our parents being subservient and always at home. It was the father who is up there and they brought the food and did everything. The woman was working more at home or in the farm, and that was about it. Yes, you are right, Eunice, things have changed. Everybody is working. We are all working. We go out 8 to 5. My wife goes to work, I go to work, everybody at the home. Let me just use my home, for example, because we have 3 boys and me. And Priscilla is the one who goes more from 8 to 5 to work. And then we expect her to come and work for us. So we trained these boys go to cook. What do I cook? Whatever you want to cook, we'll eat it. Everybody starts to cook because they were never cooking before. Even me, I never grew up cooking. Going to the kitchen was almost like taboo. It was my sister's work. You must. And then you learn when the time of general cleaning in the house, there was a time which you would do it alone, and that's torture. Let's all do it together. Gentlemen, let me talk to the men because there are many men listening, and I know you'll share this. When you help one another, there is nothing that makes you less. She even obeys you even more because she respects, she sees you are helping too. And you have harmony and peace at home. When Priscilla comes and fights, I've cleaned up the dishes, she's even happier that I've done that, and she respects me even more, and she obeys me even more, and I obey her even more. We are team together. Times now, as I said at the beginning, things are changing. The women are getting even more advancements because they're now from a CNA to LPN to RN to nurse practitioner to whatever goes on. That progression is much easier for women because these are traditional women. But I want even the men to join them. We cannot do it. Now, let's all do it. Even if you are driving our trucks, even if you are in security, whatever you're doing, go to school, man. Go to school. Going to school is good. Try to have some advancement. Let's meet together. Let us explore the laws together. We are a team. I know some men may disagree with me or hear some, maybe, why did he use bought by those women, all that. But it's a fact. If you're left behind, if you want her to respect you, don't be left behind. Try to do something like we are doing with Robert and others. Try, because this is the other thing. If there is economic imbalance, if the woman is earning more money than you, you'll start feeling it creates a mindset in you. There's nothing wrong with her earning more money than you, but respect one another, and it is money that's going to be used for the family. The other thing I wanted to say in those cultures is this. Time is gone. Time is gone when there is a head of household, we are together. There is no question of leadership here. It's a home we are in together. Even the things I listen to my children. My son is here listening to me. Ken, are you there? They are listening. I listen to them. This technology, they are much better. There are many things they are better off. We listen to one another. There's a thing I'm better off. There are things my wife is better off. Let's just share responsibilities. We are better off. Don't look for, oh, she did not cook for me. You can't believe that nonsense of killing was she did not cook for him. What kind of nonsense? Can't you cook? You have two hands too. But the point is, it also goes to the women. Before we move on to the domestic violence, I want two words very important. Trust. Trust is sometimes lacking because when you go out there, you think she's going out with another man or he's going out with other women. Listen, if he wants to go, you can't stop it. If he wants to go, you cannot stop it. But the only way, respect yourself. There's nothing you need in anybody else you cannot get from your spouse. Two, communication. People, let's talk together. Life is not always perfect. There's something she doesn't like me doing. There's some things we not like. Let's talk it out together and we create harmony at home. Trust, love one another again. Love is very easy and it's built through communication, through trust. And then also, finally, I also wanted to say, these meetings, of course, are important because we are bringing communities together and more the women. But I also want you, Eunice, to one time get together with Anthony Kamnao and others, Kemen. Let us talk together. Don't leave the men behind. Remember, most of the abuse, although there is abuse from the women to the men, there is coming from men to women. You don't just talk, let's not just talk as gossip. Let's once in a while have a meeting of gossip and Kemen and other women's groups. We can share ideas because once we share, we are together, we promote area programs that engage both men and women, will be better off. And we'll move on, and those cultures change. Culture is to change. We're in a new environment. Let's grow together because everybody is working is for the good of the family. Thank you so much.
You know, Dr. really why, why I called you here, Dr. Deloy. It's because of your, you just have this perspective of a man. You don't even sound African when you actually talk about domestic violence. You really do. I hear you sound like the words Jesus would say to men. Man is commanded to love a wife, not be beating the wife to where they're killing them. So I really thank you, and I am glad that you say that we will meet with men. We say that this war is not against men. This war is against domestic violence.
Right.
I want to rush to Stella. Stella has a very powerful story as a survivor. You're gonna have to listen to this story to know that domestic violence hurts. Stella, you take it away.
Hey. So, yes, I wanted to chime in and talk about, add on to what Caroline said about the church, the role of the church in all this. Because I remember even after going through this abuse, even when I was looking like this, even when I was burnt, after I was burnt, there was a pastor that recommended that I should forgive my abuser and go back to him so we can make a family, even before I could heal my wounds. So I want you to see that sometimes, like Karen said, the pastors are not equipped to deal with this. They are equipped to speak faith into us. But then it comes to a place where it's either common sense, you have to know my life is in danger here. It's not about having a family that is more important than my life, because if he happened to do this to me, if he can burn me like this, what else can he do? And so going back to such a situation is really risking your life. And so you have to be wise enough to know, okay, I know the pastor, the church might not understand this, but I need to get out of this situation. Now, you talked about my book, and yes, I have a book. It's called The Abused Queen. And the title itself, I wanted to talk about that because as you can see, this is a queen. She has gotten off her throne because I believe what the Bible says, we are kings and queens in this world. And so if I am a queen and I am being abused, I have gotten off my throne. In that home, I'm supposed to be a queen, not to overpower him, to submit to him, but he has to have his boundaries. There are boundaries. Submission does not mean him pumping me down and demeaning me. That does not make me submissive. So the title of this book is about women because abuser, their target number one is your self-esteem. It's like that's their target. And the first thing, that's why they don't start out, most of them don't start out physically abusing you. They start out by calling you names, by demeaning the way you look, by saying, oh, you know, you are too fat, you are ugly, you are that, you are that. They say demeaning words. And what that does is mess up with your self-esteem, your self-worth. And you start feeling like I'm not good enough. My very abuser told me things like, you can't do it without me. Where will you go? Who will want you? Mm-hmm. Those kind of words, they work on your self-esteem. And first of all, the reason we are with these abusers is because we don't believe in ourselves. We have insecurities. And so what he did was mess up with the real security I had, the real dignity I had about myself. And so he messed that up. The more he kept saying, you cannot make it without me. You cannot do it without me. Who will want you? Nobody will want you. I'm the best deal you got. And the more you hear that, it gets into you and you start believing it. And so you live thinking that this is the best I got. So I better stay here. Even though he's treating me way less than I deserve, I will stay here because getting out of here means I might not get someone else. So the book, The Abused Queen, is about your identity, knowing who you are. And most of the women who are already stuck in that kind of marriage today is because they don't believe they are good enough. Your self-esteem has been lowered, low. Now you don't even believe you can survive. If you have kids, you don't believe you can do it without this person. So now you are worried about what is the point of living? Because I cannot do this without this guy. And now I would rather stay here so the kids have their needs, so the kids have a father, so the kids enjoy this kind of, maybe you have bought a home and you are, according to the money you get by yourself, you are afraid you will not be able to provide your kids with the kind of lifestyle he provides or both of you provide. And so you live in that kind of hell because you are afraid what will happen if I let this person, if I leave this person. I'll have to downgrade. I'll have to go down in my living status. But you shouldn't worry about things like that. And so not just the book. When I was launching the book, this had been a year and something ago. So I knew it was about identity. And so I came up with this logo, a queen. I am a queen and I deserve to be loved right. Okay, because that is what kept me there, not believing I am good enough, I am beautiful enough. He messed up my identity to where I felt like I'm not good enough when I'm not with this person. Now, I didn't leave the men out, like Dr. Peter said. We can't leave the men out of this. And so the men, and they bought these t-shirts too, because I wanted them to know you are a king and you deserve to be treated right. So I'm not doing this for marketing purposes. Of course, if you want one, you can inbox me. But I want to emphasize on the fact that when you don't know who you are, you will be used, you'll be misused, and you'll be abused. So it's your time. It's even when you are in that marriage, you have to start listening to things that speak to your identity, that empower you, that give you courage to stand by yourself. Don't think that this is the person that is giving you courage to start, or is giving you power to go on with life. There is a God in heaven. And 5 years, it's been 5 years since I left that marriage. Okay. So it's been 5 years since I left that marriage. When I was in that marriage, by the time I left that marriage, I had an 8-month-old baby. 8 months. I want you to imagine that. 8 months, I have been burnt. I am now homeless. I cannot work. And my whole family is in Kenya. So I didn't have anywhere to go. So you can imagine how much it took to even start up again and get ground. But I want to encourage you that you are better off by yourself than being with a person who can kill you anytime, who can mess you up anytime. One more thing I wanted to add before I go is pay attention to what your abuser is saying. Pay attention to their words, because this person kept threatening me and saying, you can't leave me. I would kill for you. I would kill this. I would do this. I would hurt you. I would do this. Pay attention to those words, because remember, our mouth speaketh from the abundance of the heart. So whatever they are saying is what they can do. So don't take it lightly. Like Lillian said, like so-and-so cannot hurt me. Yes, they can. And whatever they are saying, you better take those words seriously, because they are telling you ahead of time that they can hurt you. So listen to those words and do what is necessary. If not for you, do it for your kids. Thank you, Eunice. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Stella. Definitely, we are all a powerhouse full of power, full of encouragement and empowerment. I want to jump onto a picture here, because this picture is exactly what you talked about. You talked about self-esteem and somebody taking over your life. I was speaking in an event where I was asked to talk about domestic violence, and I asked this couple to demonstrate for me, because I wanted to make sure that women understand when a man is abusing you, whether it is financially, whether it is medically, whether it is emotionally, they take your power. They tie you down onto that chair so that they can abuse you. They will take your keys, they will take away your friends, they will take away your family. They will take away your economic power, so that whenever you feel like you want to leave this man that is abusing you, you can't even move. They tie you down. And I want to show you another picture of my own cousin I rescued one time in a relationship. That was a picture I took in the car because I wanted to have evidence of how much she had been abused. But I want to tell you that this woman did not stay in rescue. She went back to the abuser. Why do women go back to being abused? We ask that question all the time. We have seen the women that we know that have been killed even in this country. They probably moved out and they moved back. You said something very strongly, Stella, about when they say that they're gonna kill you, they will probably kill you. I don't see someone that is gonna say, I'm gonna hurt you and not hurt you. So, because we have talked a lot about people that have been abused, and I want to come back again to Margaret Wanuma, because we want to wrap up, and we have, of course, we have so many people that are listening, whether on Zoom or even in other groups, to make sure that I give everybody a chance to say something besides the introduction. Margaret, I want you to speak again about maybe some of the resources. What are some way we can empower women that are in relationships that are toxic, that are unsafe? What can we tell these women? What can we do for them?
Hi guys. I think like we all talked about, I think the most important thing is being that friend, right? And recognizing signs. And now that I'm sitting here, even looking at the workplace that I had worked, I almost could see women who probably were abused, but I didn't pick it up. You know, it could be, are they timid? And some of the thing we're reading is saying, are they always apologetic? Are they anxious? You know, and then starting a conversation, you have to be, just start with the open-ended question. You know, I noticed, or I realize, I see. Then going straight and ask a yes or no question. You have to think about that, because then you block that conversation. They might not share with you. You know, and like I said, I think Lydian has done great things, and I do follow her on Facebook. It's the other important thing is, so you find someone is abused, they open up to you, then you're gonna take that step further. They might not seek help, right? Because sometimes it's embedded in their brain. They might change this gentleman, or they might change this woman, because abuse can go both ways. I think you want to take that step further, maybe call for them. You kind of like be the lead in it. And like I had told you, Eunice, we're going to have this representative in different places where women feel safe, or we have a place to call or a place to go, you know, because I might notice at work, I mean, I do work in a long-term care facility, somebody who's abused. My approach might not be good. Maybe I know somebody who might tackle that, you know, issue, somebody I can go to. But like I said, through my readings, I've been reading a lot about this. It's, you always want to start the question. You make it open-ended, so that way they explore and explain. And then the other thing, we want to be our sisters and brothers keeper, right? Through church, mentorship, you know, there's a lot of work to be done. I think losing 1 or 2 women every year, I think it's too much. It gotta stop. We gotta do something as a society. We can't wait for our leaders to do anything. We gotta start with us, ourselves. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Margaret. I'm jumping onto, I'm going to jump onto Monica. Monica, you work in a school. You're a school nurse.
Yes,
As
yes, I
said
am.
from the beginning, I'm very passionate, not because my husband has beaten me up, but because I was beaten up as a child. Living in a home where my mom was beaten up every day hurt me so bad that I'm so passionate. I want to speak about this domestic violence on behalf of the children. What do you see in children when you see those children and they come to school? Whether they're American children, whether they're Kenyan, you know, immigrants or whatever, there are some characteristics that we ought to be looking for in children that are living in those kind of relationships. Can you talk about that, Monica?
Yes, let me, one thing I can tell you for sure about being a school nurse. Sometimes it can be very hard. It can be very hard. The things that you see. And when I first started working in a school, in my school district, I started working when I was in nursing school, and I was a substitute teacher for 1 semester. And I remember I would always think to myself, oh my God, kids are so bad. That's all I would say. I thought, how do even teachers cope in these schools? These kids are so bad. That's all I could see until I became a school nurse. And even before I became a school nurse, the teachers would tell me, you just have to know these kids. And I gotta tell you, we really have to be very, very careful how we raise our children, especially as African parents. I can give you stories. Of course I can't. I'm a school nurse. I have to protect information. But I want to give you some examples and of where sometimes we fail as African parents. And it all boils down to the fear that we have as immigrants. Guys, I have had a student come to school, you assess them, you see bruises. Oh, like we have to also realize that hurt people hurt other people. So a lot of times domestic violence is followed by child abuse. It's almost automatic that there will be child abuse in that family. So the mother who is hurting so much is going to lash out on those children. And you have had these kids come to school and they have serious, serious injuries. Because when they come and a teacher suspects or anything, these African children, they will not go to a counselor. They will not speak to a teacher. Guess why? We're the ones who have told them not to do it. We tell them not to do it. We threaten them that CPS is going to take them away. That is what we do to our kids. Let me tell you the danger of that, my dear friends. The day that somebody will abuse your child will not speak to anybody. They will not say anything. They probably won't even say anything to you because they are afraid that they are going to be taken away. So my thing is, you have to first of all learn to discipline appropriately, and realize one thing that I didn't know before I became a school nurse is that CPS does not automatically take kids. I want to tell you guys that CPS intention is not to come and take your children. The intention of CPS is to help. As a school nurse, obviously, you guys know if I see it, I have to report it. I have to report it. I've reported it even for African parents. And it's painful to watch because of the fear that immigrants have. Guys, that's not what happens. CPS is sensitive to the fact that sometimes parents just lose it. They know that. They know that. Your child has been running away from home, going to run around with boys, and one day you just lose it and you beat the daylights out of them. They go to school the next day, they go and say something, or the teacher says something. Now everybody's freaking out. Guess what the child does? They will not say the truth. You sit here, you beg them. You have assessed, you have seen belt bruises on the thighs, on the back. That's another thing. Please, let's stop beating our children like this. Imagine it's not good. And I'm going to tell you, just because it was done to us does not make it right. Children are bruised. They are hurt. So this is for you who is staying in that marriage for the sake of the children. Don't do it. Don't do it. The pain that you are going to cause your children will be for a lifetime. And here is where I want to approach this from. Majority of the times we talk about there is domestic violence in the home and it's affecting the children. No, it's not affecting the children. That's not what is happening here. These children are living the abuse.
Yeah.
So don't think that because it is you who gets beaten and not the children, that your children are affected. Talking about children as being affected totally diminishes what is happening to them. They're not being affected. They are living the pain that you are living. Every time they hear you, do you know what these kids do in their rooms? They go to hide in the closet. Let me tell you what happens when they come to school. They're so withdrawn, you guys. Let me give you examples. I will tell you by age of what happens. But first of all, what I wanted to reiterate is that children are not affected. No, they are living the torture that is going on in that room. They're living it, they're experiencing it, and they're feeling it deep inside. So when they go to school, this is what happens. If you have preschoolers, the little ones who are 1 to 4 years old, this is what happens. These are some of the symptoms you need to be looking out for, the signs. Your child becomes withdrawn. They become anxious. Those are the kids you see, they have been coming to school the whole semester. Everything has been fine, But somewhere along the way, when they get dropped off, they cry like crazy. They have separation anxiety when the mom is leaving. My dear, your child worries about you. When you drop them off at the school, they don't have peace. They don't know if they're going to find you at home in pain. So they come to school, they withdraw. They regress. Instead of progressing forward, you start to see a child change.
Mhm.
And sometimes the teacher will come to the nurse and tell the nurse, I am noticing something different with this child. My dears, if it is an American child, it might not be hard to find out what is going on. If it is one of our children, those kids will die with that pain.
Mhm.
Imagine they will not go to school and speak up. They will die with that pain because we are the ones who have told them not to go and speak because they will get in trouble.
Yeah.
Don't tell that to your children. Teach your children to ask for help if they are going through something difficult. And trust me when I tell you, the first thing CPS is gonna do is to come and do a wellness check. Imagine they will not take your child. That is not the first thing they wanna do. They want to see what happened. They even teach you how to discipline your child properly. We report these things and imagine kids still stay in these homes. They're not taken away. There has to be something very extreme that will make that child be taken out of that home. But when I say that domestic violence does not affect children, if there is abuse in a home, it is considered that the child is being abused, period. Whether that child is being beaten or not, that child is being abused. So while you are sitting there thinking that this is good for your children, for you to stay, Mama, it's not good. Don't stay. Don't stay. This is the boys, and let me tell you where children, boys from abused homes, why they end up being domestic abusers themselves. I'll tell you why. Research shows, by the way, and I can share where I got my research from, the duration of a child's encounter with domestic violence, the duration, and I'm going to rush through this because we're running out of time. The duration is what matters more than the severity of the abuse. I hope you guys get that. The severity of the abuse is not the issue here as much as the duration of that abuse. The duration. So your child could only be seeing you being beaten and being yelled at by the father. He never gets beaten, but the longer you stay, that duration is worse than the severity of what that child is seeing or what that child is going. So guys, don't restrict your children because even the day a teacher will touch them inappropriately, they will not tell a counselor. The day your child will be raped by boys in the back of the bus, she will not tell you. Because if she says something, she will be taken away.
That's very powerful. And I want to really actually back you up on that when it comes to children. Don't stay in those relationships if you fear for your life just because of your children. Because if you die, you're going to leave your children there suffering. They were suffering.
One last thing I wanted to say, Eunice, before I finish.
Yes.
Girls tend to internalize. Now we're talking about like the teenagers. When you see your daughter starting to withdraw, prod, figure out what is going on. Because girls tend to internalize their pain. Boys, on the other hand, they externalize that pain. They become aggressive. They start becoming physical. You start seeing them getting in trouble in school. You see? If your girl starts to become somebody withdrawn like this, and she assumes it's okay to be beaten the way you get beaten, when she now goes into her marriage and gets beaten, she will not talk. She learned how to be withdrawn. The boy does not know how to deal with stress. They only know how to beat and be physical. When they get married, they will go and beat their wives. It's just a domino effect.
Mm-hmm.
It's a domino effect.
Thank you very much. Of course, we need to come back and talk about more about child abuse, because now that one, we can talk all day. I worked child welfare here. I was, I used to actually place those children that were removed in the home because of domestic violence. The government of America, because of they use research, and their research informs their policies and practice. They do know that when a child is in the home and there's domestic violence, that child suffers the consequences of that violence. And that's why they're very keen on that. On the other hand, as Africans, we want to say, stay for the children, stay, stay, don't leave your kids. That's the work of the mom to take care of the children. Let me tell you, the trauma I went through as a child, and I'm going to say again, because you talked about kids hiding in the closet. My dad used to drive a Volkswagen, and I'm not embarrassed to talk about it. He used to drive a Volkswagen. And every Friday, I would wait to hear that sound, because that was a trigger for me. There's going to be war in the house. And the first thing I did as soon as he got in the house is to go dart under my bed. I went under my bed because I would start feeling the pain even before my mom starts screaming. And then the war would be so bad, I would run to try and get in the middle of that fight. And I remember my dad would pull me by hair and throw me to the wall, and pull my mom's hair and pull her to the wall. We're talking about these vulnerable children that cannot speak about domestic violence, cannot fight for themselves. They're in that home and you're staying for them. You're not staying for them. You're staying with them in that abuse. And we're gonna have to be better if we're gonna be better parents. I want to run to Lillian. Lillian she did talk about a little bit of her experience in domestic violence. And I want you, as we close, you talked about resources. How do I feel safe when I call a friend, when I call you, when I call these people that are supposed to help me, the number that we are giving to the women? How safe do I feel by calling that number? Is my abuser going to find out? Because research shows that 90%, over 90% of domestic violence related murder happen when the abuser knows that you are on your way out, because that's the time they snap. Can you speak about that? Because we don't want someone to be killed when they're trying to get out of that relationship. How can we safely get them out? Because I'm not here to talk about how can we safely stop abuse in the home when someone is in the home. I'm so mad by looking at those cases of the woman that was killed by a gun when she was trying to leave. I'm not here to tell women stay and get a counselor. I'm here, let's fix it. Get out of that relationship. He doesn't deserve you. Lillian, take the mic now. Unmute yourself.
Oh, okay. Yeah, it is hard to help someone who's going through domestic abuse. As much as we want to help them, they have to want to be helped, because you cannot take a woman, pull her out of the abuse. Even if it's like the brother could have easily taken the lady and gone and say, has the sister and taken her. If it's in Africa, they can maybe take and pull her to your home. In this country, you can't. You can only be there, because another thing is with domestic abuse victims, they tend to, if you push too hard for them to leave, they will avoid you. They will not come, even if you're their best friend, they will stop picking up your calls. So my thing is, be patient. And also call, if you have to, because with domestic, even the numbers, the 800 numbers that we're giving you, if you call them, they want to talk to the abused lady, the person who is being abused. So the thing is, as much as we want to help, the only thing you can do is give them resources. Be there. Me, what I do with these women is, like Margaret was saying, I'm always there. If they don't pick up my call today, I will not call them. But then when I call them, I'm not bombarding them with questions. Why don't you leave? Why don't you do this? How you approach them is very important, because a lot of us, when we make up our mind that you're being abused, we feel that you have to leave. And of course we want you to leave. But remember, an abused victim is very delicate, because she has other things. She has children. She's thinking about money. She's thinking about where she's gonna go. She's thinking about so many things. So what you can do is make availability. If you can, if just ask her, what do you need? And if it's a place to stay, you can offer a place to stay, because a lot of women will say, I don't want to go to the shelter with my kids. Offer them a place to stay. Offer them a place to, to go and also, if you can, he said, you need some money. Do you need some food? It's be there. But being there doesn't mean you force being there. It's just giving them the resources. Just telling them, hey, I know so-and-so maybe can help you. Like most of the ladies that I've been helping, they've been sent by a friend. They'll say, oh, can you call Lillian? So she'll call me and say, hey, your friend Jane sent me to you. And sometimes the lady may not hear you telling them to leave the abuse. So send them to somebody like Eunice, me, or just anybody in the community that you think maybe they can hear. Because sometimes hearing it from you as a sister, you've got other issues, the sisterhood, everything that's been going on. They're scared of your husband, they're scared of your mother, you telling the mother. So the best thing is to actually just send them to somebody else and give them their 800 number. Just say you can always call, because it is hard to tell a woman who doesn't want to leave. Even with when you call the shelter, they don't force you to leave your husband. And that's what I tell women. When you're calling that 800 number to be helped, they're not going to tell you need to leave your husband. They will never tell you to leave your husband. They will see what you need. And remember, these people will find a place for you. They will help you with your green card. They will help you with your children. It's okay for your children to be at the shelter. Some people, I've tried to help a woman who told me, I don't want my children in the shelter. It is better for your children to be in the shelter with you than be, than be with you in an abusive home. So in the shelter there, remember the shelter, they will help your kid. They will make sure your kid goes to school. They will make sure you have resources for your kids. That is their number one priority if you have kids and you go in the shelter. Don't be scared that, oh, my kids are in school, I can't leave. Or my kids need to go here. So just keep telling them about good things. Let's talk about in the community. Let's talk about shelters. Let's talk about what's there. I like in my videos, I like talking about the life in the shelter. I was in the shelter with my little daughter. She was 3 years old when I went to the shelter. And she will tell you that the best time she ever had was being in the shelter. It was like a hotel for her. And I have women who will testify that it was better. The kids love the shelter better than the abuse.
Mm-hmm. Thank you very much.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you very much, Lillian. I want to bring back Dr. Diangoi one more time. And if I haven't forgotten you to bring you back, please let me know. I want to bring Dr. Diangoi one more time.
Thank you. Before we close, thank you, Eunice and Lydian. That's powerful. I mean, I can't.
Question for you, Dr.
Sorry. Okay.
My question for you, Dr. is this. We have, of course, you work with families to resolve conflict.
Yes.
I know you work with families to even help with communication, and I'm not saying that every marriage is bad. Even when there's domestic violence, sometimes we can resolve issues, and
Right.
what are some of the ways that we can safely, resolve these issues and not
Right.
necessarily break the marriage? Are there some steps that families can take?
Right. Thank you so much, Eunice. Uh, just before I even address that one, because I'm here, the only man, let me also say this. About 10% of all the women in the United States, of all the men, have experienced abuse of one kind or the other. It's also very hard for a man to come out and say, even coming to this kind of environment, there are many men who are asking, what is he doing there? What business does he have? Men, please get out, talk it out. So Eunice, the main point is, let us talk to each other. Let us listen to one another, what I have heard. Yes, one abuse is bad. It should never happen. As Maya Angelou said, when someone shows you who they are the first time, believe them.
Yes.
But that does not necessarily mean all the time that there is an abuse, I must run away. Because people are people, sometimes they're upset about something, we can talk it out. We are not always kumubaya, we are not always like that. But communication, communication, communication are my three things. Let's talk with each other. Let us tell our inner feelings. And don't be shy to talk out. Because you stay with it, as people have said here, you stay with it. And in fact, Lilian, I'm glad you said the shelter is not as bad as it sounds. There's no reason to stay in an environment. Please note, if he beats you once, he can beat you again. That forgiveness may be good, but, and it also goes to women, by the way, sometimes, it happens because some women also are very violent in one or the other. But I wanted to say something, Stella, and many of you have said. He pushes you down. He pushes you down, or she pushes you down. What kind of man are you? Why are you not like Peter Young? Why are you not like this? Why are you not like that? He's different. He's unique. He's trying his own way. But when there's no enemy within you, the enemy outside cannot destroy you. So it doesn't matter how many times people tell you you're not beautiful. If you don't believe it, you will always be beautiful because you know you are beautiful. You know you are great. You know you are great. But people try to bring each other down. But again, Eunice, the main point I want to repeat is communication, communication. And let's have these community programs together. Let's try to empower our men too. If you know Peter is doing something here, tell John, tell Robert, tell everybody else. Let's just share these ideas together. Let's empower each other. We have come from far. Let us support one another. And lastly, again to the men, because I know you may feel, being able to talk, be able to be in an environment like this and talk to your wife is much more powerful than just keeping away and going there to just talk with other men and how bad women are. Because that's the thing that people get. Oh, we just go there and talk about how anawake, and then let's talk together. As I said, Eunice, once again, let's all get together. And I believe that when we build each family, when we know that it's not just my place, we can be able to build each other, we'll minimize this violence. But talking, trusting one another, sharing experiences, communities coming together, we have a collective responsibility. One death is more than enough. Thank you.
All right, so I am going to go to Wangoi. Wangoi, you have some closing remarks. I want to give you one more chance to talk about, especially resources and some of the things that you have done or you're doing to empower women, because all domestic violence survivors, can you please highlight those?
Our organization is state funded and federally funded. It's specific to the state of Iowa, and it's for the African refugees and immigrants. That's why it has so much meaning for me. And I have not found out whether in the other states it's that way, where when we get a client, we take her holistically. And I'm piggybacking on all the points we've all been talking about. we also talked, and Monica, you emphasized that the children are also experiencing this. So we take the survivor, the victim, and I said the majority are women and girls. They are taken holistically, and what I do is coordinating what is in the resources that are in the state, because they are there such that, as Margaret, Lillian have all said, that the resources are there once the person is ready. Lillian, you said you really can't force help on somebody. Then the other bigger piece that excites me is because a lot of the violence is systematic and it's systemic. We address it, we educate. And this is where, as my peer, Dr. Diangui, has been talking about, educating the men and working with our African networks. I attend Peter's networks when he is educating the men in his part of Florida. And even in Iowa, we have the African network, because we also want not just to empower the victims and the survivors, but we are also wanting to reduce it by working with the people who are perpetrating, and especially our sons and our children, so that we reduce the generational repetition of what our contemporaries, our husbands right now are doing, so that it is not passed on. That's a very big piece. And I reach out to the African youth in our colleges, in our schools, and even those who are not in the schools, to work with us to address this. It's a very important part. I don't want to take a lot of time. I want to stop there and say thank you for the opportunity as we continue working to prevent domestic violence in our communities.
Thank you. And sorry. Eunice, I just want to say, Dr. Agoi, the work you do even with the association, I'm so proud of the work we got together, because we are all partners. Thank you, thank you, thank you. But I don't know, Ken is still here. I wanted to hear him as a young man. Eunice,
Let me add a very big important piece, and we've touched on it, as the counseling, because the violence has a lot of trauma. And some of us even carry it from Kenya, and we bring it here. I am lucky. A lot of the clients that I work with, they have Medicaid, they have insurance to attend to the traumas. But there are some people, because of their status, because that's something we can never forget. That's one of the questions we always, as we assess our clients, whether they have insurance. And this is something, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think Stella mentioned that our churches and in our own gatherings, always trying to look for ways, those of us who have no form of insurance, to through our churches and our communities, to address this need, the counseling that should go together, as because there's a lot of stress, there's a lot of depression as we as people experience domestic violence, and children also experience the same thing as either their dad or their mom, but mostly their mother is experiencing violence. So that's another piece that I make sure it's not left behind as we help the survivors of domestic violence. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Wangoi. Thank you. I am going to switch to Stella to say her closing remarks. We are already, I think, past 2 hours, but I think our viewers are engaging and we can see all the comments. We might not be able to read all of them, but we appreciate everyone that is watching and commenting there. Definitely, thank you so much. This is a hot topic in America, And I believe in, even as a social worker or as an educator, that we need to talk about these matters as soon as they come up. We cannot wait, because when one of us dies, that's too many. So I want Stella to give her closing remarks, and we will be back, because this is not the end of the fight. We will continue to fight.
Thank you very much, Eunice. I wanted to let you know that you can get this book on Amazon. It's available on Amazon. And why you need this book, especially if you're not sure you are in an abusive home, is because the signs, I've listed the signs, some of them that I went through and some that are all the signs of emotional, mental, verbal, all those signs, because before you get to physical abuse, most abusers get you emotionally. And so by the time they slap you, because the first physical abuse I got was a slap, and I left the home just to come back. And you are asking, why do we come back? We come back because they have disarmed us. They have disarmed us to believe we can't do it without them. And so many people out there said, oh, how are you gonna leave your husband because of a slap? Do you know what we have endured? Literally, somebody said that, and I was like, a slap is way too much for me, you know? But anyway, I went back, and guess what? I went back and I came out like this. Now, burnt out, burnt. And so I wanna encourage you. Why we are here is not because we want to break up marriages. There are still ways you can solve this situation without breaking a marriage, especially if the other person realizes their mistake, they realize there's an issue that needs to be fixed, because this is not a one-sided thing. Because if my abuser don't realize that he's dealing with the anger issues, he's emotionally unstable, then he's not gonna address that area. And if he's not addressing it, then he'll keep repeating it over and over again. And so I'll keep receiving the abuse. So my worry is, do we know the signs? So not just on this book, go online and Google what are the signs of abuse. How do you get emotionally abused? How do you get verbally abused? What does it mean? Because some of us grew up watching our parents go through these things. And so we think it's normal. Even the abusers themselves, they saw their fathers beating their mothers, and so they feel like when they get mad, they should slap their wife, not knowing it's wrong. Just because daddy did it doesn't make it right, you know? And just because I watched my mother maybe go through it doesn't mean I should take it, you know? So educate yourself, especially if you are in a situation where you know there could be abuse and this person is threatening you. Educate yourself, know the signs. You know, I think that would cross for me. Remember, you can get this book on Amazon, and why I'm emphasizing on the book is because I have told from how it switched from being a perfect marriage and it digressed to verbal, emotional, and the things he told me that I cannot say here, right? So you have to educate yourself, buy other books that will teach you how to escape. And when they are stalking is a form of abuse. And these people, especially like that pastor, I've not really read that story well, but when someone starts stalking you because you left, be very careful. If they don't obey the restraining order, if they've been told to stay away for this particular time and they still breaking those laws, be sure that they can come and hurt you, even in your own house, even when you move out. They can come and kill you and kill your kids. So be very careful. Make sure they are following the restraining order, and don't take it lightly when they break it. Call on the police again. Thank you so much, Ms. Eunice.
Thank you very much. We know there are so many cases. We can even name names of people that have been killed and kids came home and found dad and mom had killed himself. I mean, dad had killed the mom and he killed himself. You all know that case, and so many other cases. We had another one in Germany. So we're going to be closing here soon, and I want Margaret and Caroline to say their last words before, because we have so much to fight. I am fighting because I have two daughters. If I don't fight domestic violence, even though I'm not in a domestic violence relationship, I want to make sure I empower her. I want to make sure that I am even speak, probably even perhaps to her future husband, because they're gonna have to know from me that I'm not going to tolerate him laying a hand on my daughters, because I will call a meeting just like this to address him. I am not going to allow anyone to go through domestic violence, because I know it hurts. And so um, I want to call Margaret before I call Caroline. Margaret, you have a friend who died, and I keep bringing this back because the first time we talked, that is the thing that you brought up. Domestic violence is so disgusting. Can you talk about that feeling, that emotional feeling that you expressed because of what you saw your friend go through or die, and you can't talk to your friend anymore because of domestic violence?
It's a horrible thing. And the worst thing is when you attend these funerals and you see the kids left. At that time, I don't think the kid was even walking. It's the worst. And like I said, something gotta be done, because enough is enough. And now that, like Monica said, now it trickles down to the children, right? And that's another topic for probably another day, of child abuse, sexual abuse here in America. That's going on today, and it's been covered up. It's sickening, when I see these things, young women being killed, and I know men are getting abused too. It's disheartening, and it's ongoing. And like I said, us as society, we have a role. We have a lot of work to do. There's a lot to be done. We gotta stop being not judgmental. Please if somebody come talk to you, listen to them. Don't judge them. Don't disclose the information. There's a reason why they chose you. They didn't talk to the neighbor. They came to you because they trusted you. So for me, I think this topic, we ought to continue, because now this issue of children getting abused, and like you guys talked, when you talk about abuse, it's affecting our boys. Anything we do here with my husband, my boys are watching me. Are they gonna do the same thing? So we have to break the cycle. We have to break the cycle today. Thank you so much for invitation to be in this panel. Even though I came to talk, I learned so much. I want to thank all of you, and it was very nice to meet you.
Thank you.
I'm going back. I'm going back to my friend Caroline. Caroline is a singer. I'm not gonna ask her to sing right now, but Caroline, there's something that you might say that you probably haven't said, or you have already said, that is going to remain in our hearts, in our minds, that when we see someone who is being abused, we are sensitive. When we hear that someone is being abused, we're sensitive. Or maybe there's a victim here that hasn't spoken up yet. What is that thing that you endured that really spoke to you? And just told you that if you don't do something, you're gonna lose your life, or something like that. Just leave that mark.
Thank you so much. And I want to speak to you, our viewers, or even those who may be watching the replay. It is by God's grace I survived. Abuse is real, and it has a face. And my hope is that our conversations and our stories tonight emphasized the importance of you exiting safely. My hope and my prayer for you is that you may know that love is not supposed to hurt. And as a Christian, God is against violence. And in fact, God would love for you to be in a healthy relationship. And as one of the experts on the panel said, I think it's Monica who said, what about my kids? Your kids are living the abuse right now as you are being abused. I want you to know that we see you, we hear you. And even though it's been 16 years later, the fact that I'm here speaking to you, may this be the clue, or maybe may this be the sign for you to know that there is life after divorce. There is life even after domestic violence, because a lot of times we set out to get married and no one ever thought that the relationship we got into would end up in divorce because of domestic violence. Put your ego aside, because a lot of times we're trying to prove to our community, I'm married. Being married is not a status, my sister. If you're in a marriage and you're being abused, that is not something you're trying to prove to anyone. And as someone said, you'd rather be single and happy. I left and I went through almost a whole year of therapy, because the effects from domestic violence, there's so much ingrained and embedded trauma that you carry with you. And therapy helped me find my voice. It helped me find myself again. And God blessed me with an amazing man in 2011. We've been married 9 years. And living is a process, is not a one-time event. Make sure you leave and exit safely. And we put up the phone numbers and the websites that you can go into and get help. Enough is enough. We do not want to lose another sister. We do not want to leave children without parents anymore. And for you community leaders, please be kind and be gracious. And even on social media, we've seen sisters who've shared their stories and they've been bullied. Let us start with us. Let us be our sisters' keepers. God help our community, because we do not want to lose other sisters, or we do not want our children left without parents. This needs to stop. Those are my closing remarks.
That was powerful. Caroline, I'm a crier. I cry through the movies. I cry when movies are going on, and even when they're not real stories, and that makes me cry. I'm crying. The reason I'm crying is because of the little hearts. The little hearts that are watching us adopt. You know, in America here, Kenya, we brought them all the way from Kenya to America or even to Canada so that we can take care of them and show them that America is great and bring them to these greener pastures. But there's something I want to say before I close, as all my panelists have said, my colleagues, now you're my colleagues in this fight. We're not stopping this fight, because one life lost in domestic violence is too many lives. We're gonna have to save lives. We don't want to hear so and so killed his wife or killed his her husband. We don't want to hear that. We want to fight. We want to educate. We want to empower. We want to empathize. Because as you said, Caroline, we need to be very, very empathetic to the people that are going through domestic violence. And as community leaders and even church leaders, Christians, pastors, get on board. We're forming this fight. It's an army. We're gonna fight together. We're bringing our men in here so that they can know we are not fighting them. I'm not here to fight marriages. I'm here to fight abusers. They're gonna have to stop fighting. They're gonna have to start loving their wives. Jesus commands them to love their wives. And none of you described love as beating. None of you described love using the characteristics of an abuser. Christ would die for church. Christ would die for his people. Christ carried the cross so he could save us. If that's the kind of love a man is commanded to love his wife, he's gonna have to be ready to die for her, defend her, protect her, and give her the love of Christ, because God is love. And if you can't take care of that wife, just because you pay dowry, we're here as a community. We'll do Harambe. We'll return your money. We'll help you get back your dowry so that you don't have to kill our sister. We're speaking up here as united sisters, backed by men who know that abuse is not okay. So if you're gonna watch this video after us, you can share it. You can go through from the beginning to the end. If you know of someone who is going through abuse, reach out to them and get them out, get them help. We're sisters for life.
Read first.
God bless you so much. Anybody has a pressing something to say, something pressing to say before we close, because we're at 8:48 and we're going to have to end at 1:40.
Let me say something real quick, Eunice, that we didn't address.
Okay.
There are instances where somebody is an abuser and they don't even know. So if there is a link that we have shared for family and friends. If you go through the comments, you will find a link that we have shared with information for family and friends. On there is what to look out for to determine if you are an abuser. What to look out for when your partner is around you that will let you know that this person is afraid of you. So if you're worried that you might be an abuser or you're not sure, click on that link and just do a self-assessment and see if you are falling in that category that could be an abuser, because abuse is not always about physical. You can be abusing your husband or your wife emotionally, just from the things that you say to them. And you will diminish their self-esteem and everything, and you don't even realize you are abusing them. So click on that link and just do your own self-assessment and see what kind of a partner are you. I think that would be also important.
And Eunice.
Thank you very much, Monica.
Eunice, I was lost for a while, but I wanted to add there what Monica just said, that many men don't go through physical violence as such, but there's so much of other forms of violence, and we should look out on these too, and we should also be able to speak out, because quite often men don't want to be seen, oh, you are being abused by your wife, you're not a man, you're not man enough. But we need to look at those. Thank you, Monica, for sharing that. It's important. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We've come to the end of our show. I want to dedicate the next 5 minutes, because we are almost hitting another hour, just 5 minutes to pray for the children that their parents died this week or last week from Kenyan families where mom was killed. I think Dr. Wagoi wants to say something. Dr. Wagoi, you can say that in 1 minute, but in the next 5 minutes, Caroline is going to lead us in a word of prayer. We want to pray for all marriages. We want to pray for all relationships and safety for everyone involved.
Yes, just 1 second. If I'm able to share my screen, I just want to show the contact for our organization. You don't have to be in Iowa. And also because we are streaming on Facebook. Let me see whether I'm able to share.
I have made you a host, you can share.
Yeah, I don't know whether the page has come up for NISA African Family Services.
Not yet.
Oh, not yet. Oh, I don't even know what else to do if it's not showing.
Okay, so we can put that information. Yeah. We will tag it. We'll pin it to the video. So thank you very much for that. Just send it to me, or just actually also type it there when you're out of the Zoom.
Okay.
Yeah. So we already did a moment of silence in the beginning of the meeting, and we remembered Jacqueline and other people that have been killed in domestic violence. We'll continue to remember them because this fight is for them. They were not able to fight for themselves, so we will fight. And we will fight with the resources that God has given us. So Caroline, I want you to close with a word of prayer.
Eunice, before the close with Caroline, I'm writing a paper. Can I ask everybody please to share my link for the survey I'm doing on domestic violence? I'll be presenting in a conference in November.
Okay. Yes, please put it in
Eunice.
Put it in a video and we will share it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, let's pray. Father, in Jesus' name, we thank you for this moment and for this time where we can gather from across different states to highlight this issue of domestic violence, oh God. Father, you have called us to be your voice. You've called us to be your hands and feet, oh God. And tonight, Lord, we want to thank you for we are here to share our stories and our testimonies of how you delivered us. And because, God, you delivered us, it is our moral obligation for us to speak about what you've gotten us from, but also to go back and help those who are going through what we've come from. Father, tonight we uplift Jacqueline's children. We uplift Jacqueline's family. We uplift Jacqueline's friends, oh God, who are grieving and mourning. We also uplift Barbara's family, friends, and even the church community, oh God, who are also grieving and hurting, oh God. Father, tonight, if there's anyone amongst us who's watching and is experiencing domestic violence, Lord, I pray that this conversation be the sign they need to get help, oh God. Father, we also pray for the therapists and the community leaders, God. May they wake up and rise up, Lord, to take their place and recognize this has become an epidemic so they can do the right thing, oh God. Father, I thank you for every panelist who spoke tonight, Lord. I thank you for everyone who watched and even commented, shared, and tagged, oh God. I pray that this will go to the north, south, east, and west and bring healing and hope to those that are going through domestic violence, Lord. That, Lord, even the tools and the websites and the phone numbers that we've shared, Father, people will implement and use these resources to help save our sisters and our brothers and our children that are facing domestic violence. Father, we thank you for the opportunity that you've given us. Lord, we pray that your healing balm may heal those who are wounded. Because God, you are the one who heals and restores. In as much as God, we also go through therapy. You're the ultimate great physician. Father, we bless you and we give you glory. We thank you for your love. We thank you for your grace and we thank you for your mercy, oh Lord. We pray that, Lord, even this week, may we be the voice and the hands that you've called us to be, oh God. We bless you and we give you glory in Jesus' name. Amen, amen, amen.
Amen, amen. If you didn't realize that you are all wearing purple, we tried to look for our purple because purple represents domestic violence. We'll keep on fighting. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Margaret. Thank you, Lillian. Thank you, Dr. Wangoi. Thank you, Dr. Peter. Thank you, Stella. Thank you, Monica. All my sisters. Oh, you guys are awesome. This was a great show. May God bless you so much. We'll come back again. And we'll
Thank you. God bless you. Thank you, everybody.
All right. Thank you, Ines, for the platform. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. God bless you.
God bless you.
Thank you so much.
Good night.
Good night.
Bye.